The midbrain is the least developed of all the parts of the brainstem in man. In reptiles, it is the most developed, and it is called the tectum opticum in those group of animals. The gross structure is as follows. It is provided anteriorly with the crura cerebri on both sides. Between the crura is the interpeduncular fossa, which forms a cistern called also the interpeduncular cistern. Laterally, we have the trochlear nerves hugging the sides of the midbrain as they arise from the superior medullary velum to escape from the brainstem and enter the cavernous sinus. Posteriorly, the midbrain extends from the junction with the isthmus rubencephaly to the lower border of the posterior commissure. Anteriorly, this extension is from the isthmus rubencephaly to the inferior edge of the mammillary body. Internal organization of the brain, of the midbrain. The midbrain can be divided into the following parts: a crus cerebri or basis pedunculi, a midbrain tegmentum, and finally a midbrain tectum. The crus cerebri. This is the extension of the pyramidal tract which runs from the cortex to the spinal cord. In the midbrain, it carries massive corticopontine fibers which are arranged as follows. The cerebral peduncle is one half of the brain of the midbrain, which includes the tegmentum and the crus cerebri of that side. The most medial side of the crus cerebri is the medial pes lemniscus. This is followed by the frontopontine fibers, and then followed by corticospinal and corticobulbar tracts, and these are usually centrally placed. Lateral to the corticospinal tract is the paretopontine tract, followed by occipitopontine and then temporopontine tracts. The last part of the crus cerebri at its inferior edge is the lateral pes lemniscus. The midbrain tegmentum. This consists of the midbrain periaqueductal gray matter, containing a reticular formation of the midbrain and the midbrain cranial nerve nuclei, which are found at the cerebral aqueductal floor. It also includes other peculiar nuclear groups such as red nucleus, substantia nigra, and nuclear groups of the reticular formation. The midbrain reticular formation includes the following: nucleus subcuneiformis, nucleus cuneiformis, ventral tegmental nucleus, dorsal tegmental nucleus, nucleus tegmenti pedunculo-pontinus, and finally the nucleus of dark Schwitz. The tectum of the midbrain. The tectum of the midbrain is placed dorsal to the cerebral aqueduct. It contains the inferior and superior colliculi. The inferior colliculus is the relay reflex center for auditory activities. It has a central core surrounded by a cortex. The cortex is further surrounded by the pericollicular gray matter. The superior colliculus, on the other hand, has many zonulations. Its most external part is formed by the stratum cinereum, followed by the next, which is the stratum zonale, and this is followed by another zone which is called the opticum, that is stratum opticum, and the last, most internal zone is the stratum lemnisci. Superior colliculus is responsible for visual reflexes. It projects its fibers via the brachium of the superior colliculus to the lateral geniculate body, which also deals with visual reflexes at the level of the thalamus. Levels of the midbrain. The midbrain is usually described in two levels. 1. The level of the inferior colliculus. 2. The level of the superior colliculus. The nucleus of the oculomotor nerve is placed at the level of the superior colliculus, while the nucleus of the trochlear nerve is placed at the level of the inferior colliculus. Hence, the colliculi are used to recognize these levels. The red nucleus. This nucleus is found in the midbrain tegmentum. It is red because it is highly vascularized. It is divided into two parts. Number one, a parvocellular part, which is called neoruba. The second, magnocellular part, which is called paleoruba. It has afferent and efferent projections to various levels of a neuraxis. Afferent projections of a red nucleus. They are as follows. Cortico-rubral tract. This is coming from the cortex to the red nucleus. Spino-rubral from the spinal cord. This is doubtful. And cerebello-rubral tract from the cerebellum via the superior cerebellar peduncle. Efferent projections of a red nucleus include rubrothalamic tract, which is the second order neuron of the pathway known as the cerebello-rubrothalamic tract. This tract begins as the superior cerebellar peduncle, that is most of that peduncle. Its cell bodies are placed in the deep cerebellar nuclei of the cerebellum at the fascicular globus and boliform dentate nuclei. The fibers transverse the red nucleus and then synapse onto their second order neurons, which then proceed to the thalamus, specifically to the ventral lateral nucleus of the thalamus, VL nucleus. Rubrocerebellar tract. These run into the cerebellum as reciprocal connection to the cerebello-rubral tract. Rubobulbar tract runs into the brainstem, that is into the medulla. Rubro-olivary tract enters the inferior olive. Damage to the red nucleus causes what is known as the syndrome of Benedict, which has the following clinical features: a tremor, ataxia, coliform activity, to include damage to the ipsilateral oculomotor nerve. Substantia nigra. This is a very important tract in the extrapyramidal system. The nigrostriatal tract interconnects the substantia nigra with the corpus striatum. It carries synthesized dopamine to the corpus striatum. When this tract is damaged or diseased, serious impairment of function occurs, leading to what is called Parkinson's disease or Parkinsonism. In this condition, there is depletion of dopamine in the corpus striatum. It may be treated with anti-Parkinsonian drugs or almost permanently cured using fetal tissue transplant. There is a reciprocal tract which complements the nigrostriatal tract, by which the basal ganglia keeps the substantia nigra in check. This is called the striatonigral tract or strio-nigral tract. Important tracts in the midbrain include fasciculus retroflexus, which is also called the habenulo-interpeduncular tract. This tract is coming from the habenular nucleus and running in the interpeduncular fossa medial to the oculomotor nucleus and sometimes even transversing it. The pretector area. This area is placed above the level of the superior colliculus. It contains the following: number one, nucleus of the pretectoral area. Number two, nucleus sublentiformis. Number three, interstitial nucleus of Kajal. Some of these are extensions of the nuclei of the midbrain reticular formation. It also includes certain nuclei of the posterior commissure. The posterior commissure is part of a diencephalon, strictly speaking. Oculomotor nuclear complexes. This consists of the following nuclear groups. Number one, lateral somatic cell, that is nuclear column. It supplies the whole of the extraocular muscles which derive their nerve supply from the oculomotor nerve. Number two, caudal central nucleus. It supplies the levator palpebrae superioris. The rostral extension of the somatic nucleus provides the Edinger-Westphal nucleus, which is called the visceral nucleus, and which gives off fibers that run into the ciliary nerves and synapse at the ciliary ganglion in the orbit. They supply the sphincter pupillae. Accessory oculomotor nuclei include: number one, interstitial nucleus of Kajal. Number two, nucleus of Dark-Schwitz. Number three, nucleus of posterior commissure. The trochlear nerve. This nerve has its nucleus placed in the floor of the cerebral aqueduct and at the level of the inferior colliculus. It then runs to the superior medullary velum, where it decussates. It emerges from the brainstem at the dorsal aspect and is the only cranial nerve that does so. It then runs on the lateral aspect of a midbrain to reach the ventral aspect, where it enters the cavernous sinus in the cranial cavity.